Hi, my name's Tim Clifford, and I'm a visual artist from Brooklyn, New York. And the last few days, I've not been quite sure why I'm here, other than that Heather asked me to be here. So I feel a little out of my depth, but as an artist, that moment when you're uncomfortable or in a state of uncertainty is often where your best work is done. So as someone who makes things that have no practical use, I'm just going to share those with you. Very often, if you know that what you're making is art, or even if you know what you're doing at all, you're just repeating yourself. So it's a kind of constant challenge to push the ideas forward in new directions and follow things that are suggested by the work that you never planned to do. So the poet George Alpin wrote that there are things we live among, and to see them is to know ourselves. And that's kind of the starting point of a lot of my work. This is a project I did in the desert outside of Joshua Tree National Park, and it's called Circumstances. And what I did was I spent 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, tunneling under a series of large boulders, and then tying a single strand of yarn around them and restoring the ground. So it was just left as a question. And for me, this was about investigating just the physical nature of a thing, a simple, dumb thing, a rock. But these rocks have been there for thousands of years. We don't know, like an iceberg, you don't know what's there that you can't see. So it was just a true confrontation with the world. And these ranged from 4 feet tall to 25 feet tall. So I see my work as an investigation of the physical, historical, and political meaning of material objects and their vernacular forms of mostly American society and its history. And so what I'm doing in my work is not trying to create new perceptions, or not trying to create new forms, but to deal with the reality of existing forms and to create new perceptions of simple facts. So this is a series dealing with the picket fence, which is just a symbol of traditional small-town American life, the real America, the great America. But for me, it's not a friendly symbol, but kind of a symbol of our obsession with property. Property underlies all of our laws, and often property is more valuable than a life. You can be shot for stealing, a pack of cigarettes or something. So this work, each section is hinged. It's called Fence for 4 Properties, and it can be unfurled to create a 50 by 50 foot cross, dividing a space into 4 quadrants. And this was a sort of prototype for an unrealized public art project. It's called Barrier. So each picket has been extended to create not a fence, but a wall. And this was the full proposal, realized, like 1/10 of the scale. And the idea was to completely surround an existing house with the picket fence, so that in the desire to protect ourselves from outside forces, nobody can get into this house, but also nobody can get out. And it's kind of with our discussion now of border walls and immigration laws. The more we cut ourselves off, the more we just shut down inside. This is just one example from another series. This is called Color Belongs to the Past. And it was an investigation of the utopian nature and also increasing obsolescence of different communication systems. So billboards that no longer communicate, silent radio towers, disappearance of radio waves as things become wired. These are the first of a larger series of 100 paintings on paper. It's from a series called Target Panic. And target panic is a condition where competition shooters and archers can no longer aim and hold the gun steady, so their hand starts to quake after years of training. And for me, again, it comes back to this question of fear that we're constantly being bombarded with by the media. There are so many things we're told to fear that eventually we just become paralyzed, don't know what to focus on. And this is the full series. Then in 2013, I started this series of large drawings. These are wall-size drawings done through a process of paper inlay. Very, very delicate, which doesn't come across in the slides. But these works were begun just weeks before the school shooting that took place in Sandy Hook, Connecticut, at the Sandy Hook Elementary School, which was my hometown, was the school I attended as a child. So it affected me a lot. I was already working with this imagery, and that event really shaped kind of where this series went. And all of the titles in the series come either from the news coverage around the event or informed by that. So this piece is called Seduction of the Innocent. And kind of one of the larger points of the work is how we are educated into and numb to the effects of violence. This work is called The Ideal Classroom, which was from a speech that the head of the NRA gave, talking about how he wanted a gun in every classroom in America. This work is called Threat Assessment. Maternal Anxiety. There is no danger, which again was one of the NRA's talking points, that guns themselves pose no danger. At the same time, they're selling millions of them, and there's millions of accidental deaths every year around the world. So this is the largest work in this series. It's 12 by 24 feet, and it's called Tragedy is Not Enough, because the fact is that after the shooting at Sandy Hook and the shootings at San Bernardino, the shooting in Orlando, we're just becoming numb to these events, and nothing seems to want to move us to act against the profit of the gun companies. And I think that's kind of too little focused upon in the debate, is that it's really a profit-driven industry using fear as a marketing tool. So this exhibition, where this was shown a year and a half ago, became the center for a lot of events. We were hoping to have several gun rights groups in to speak during the exhibition. There was dance performances, performance art, readings, to sort of educate the public on the issue. But unfortunately, all of the public policy aspect of that, those discussions were halted right because of the shooting in San Bernardino, and these small organizations that I was talking with had to kind of leap into action in terms of working with families and legislators. And my work on that project led me to collaborate with a Japanese performer, Yoshiko Chuma, and the School of Hard Knocks, who brings together like an ever-rotating group of people, artists and dancers from Japan, Germany, Jordan, Palestine, Turkey, Afghanistan, and Syria. And so I've been using my drawings as part of her performances for the past 16 months. We've done 4 or 5 pieces now. Now this work, this is a 8 by 4 foot drawing, and this is kind of a new body of work based on old 19th century American tombstone imagery, and was really inspired by a lot of the shooting deaths that forced the Black Lives Matter movement into existence. And the work is called A Good Death. And there was a notion in the 19th century that you should die at home, surrounded by your loved ones, have time to make peace with your God, and die a respectful and decent death. And that's something that all of these people have been robbed of in these shootings. And then the final work, this is a public art project I did last year in New York. It's called Monument to a Missing Island. And it's made of 9,000 individual pieces of wood, and it's, is the video of that? Maybe it's not working. That's okay. So it was based on an explosion in 1885, which was the largest man-made explosion prior to the atom bomb, and it was done by the Army Corps of Engineers clearing the shipping channel of the East River in New York. So if the video is working, you'd see it in 3 dimensions, that it creates the image of the explosion in the river. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's it.